In this segment, I will teach you about origins from a different hemisphere than what we've been talking about, and that is the Western Hemisphere. The Mayans who lived in Guatemala before the Spaniards arrived, and they passed down these stories orally with the help of a codex, which is a fancy word for a book with pictures in it, that a wise person, a shaman, would use to help people who were struggling. This ended up getting written down in written language instead of around 1550 of the Common Era, so only about 500 years ago. The reason that it was written down is because Mayan culture had already been destroyed by the Spaniards, and they wanted to preserve their traditions. The Spaniards taught Mayans how to write, and this is something that came out of it. It was written in the Mayan language, Quiche, and thankfully we have it to this day. The beliefs that the Mayan people have date back more than 2,000 years, even though this was written just 500 years ago, because their tradition was oral. Nobody in this hemisphere, prior to the encounter in 1492, none of them had written language. Why? Because the people who came to this hemisphere, they actually came across the Bering Strait before writing had been invented. And the way that they would transmit their stories was orally, and sometimes they had knots and threads that would help them remember what came next, and one generation after another would pass the stories on. So this is a written account. This is from the prologue of the Popol, which many people call the Mayan Bible. Now, I don't know if you remember back in 2012 that there were many people who were worried that the world was going to end because the Mayan calendar ran out on that year. And I would have students come to me all the time, and I would say, because they actually carved it into stone, this takes a lot of work. And I would tell them, don't you think that maybe their funding ran out? Or maybe they got tired of creating calendars for so far in the future? Because in the Popol Vuh, it recognizes our civilization has come to an end. Meaning our world has ended. 2012 had nothing to do with that. The invasion of the conquistadores had everything to do with it, along with diseases like the common cold. This is the beginning of the ancient word. Notice word. Here in this place called Quiche. Here we shall inscribe, we shall implant the ancient word, the potential and source for everything done in the citadel of Quiche, in the nation of Quiche people. And here, notice that Mayans don't call themselves Mayans. That's just a word that got plastered on them. Such as most of the Native American tribes in the United States, they don't call themselves by the names that they originally were called by. We tended as conquerors to take the slang, to take the derogatory term from opposing tribes and plaster that on to the people who are left. And here we shall take up the demonstration, revelation, an account of how things were put in shadow and brought to light. I want you to think of this idea of light. We've talked at other times about the sun being an inspiration to people, but the idea of enlightenment has spread throughout humanity. light and darkness, sun and night, day and night, sun and moon. This is how things were put in shadow and brought to light by the maker, modeler, named bearer, begetter, Hampapu possum, Hampapu coyote, great white peccary, sovereign plumed serpent, heart of the lake, heart of the sea, plate shaper, bowl shaper as they're called, also named, also described as the midwife, the matchmaker named Zeakok, Zumkane, defender, protector, twice a midwife, twice a matchmaker. Okay, so this is homage to the gods that Mayans believed in. And who are they praising? A female god who can give life. As it is said in the words of Quiche, and now they start. They accounted for everything and did it too as enlightened beings in enlightened words. We shall write about this now amid the preaching of God in Christendom now. So, we're going to write this down for the first time because Christianity has overwhelmed us. But who these authors, and the book says there was one, but I don't believe that. I think it was a council. So I say they. They are writing about enlightened beings who created enlightened people. We shall bring it out because there is no longer a place to see it, meaning the books that they use, the codexes, a council book, a place to see the light that came from beside the sea, the account of our place in the shadows, a place to see the dawn of life, as it is called. There is their original book in ancient writing, meaning paintings in the book, but the one who reads and assesses it has a hidden identity. It takes a long performance and account to complete the lighting of all the sky earth. So Mayans did not see the atmosphere as separate from the earth itself. It was all one. All one. The fourfold sighting, the fourfold cornering, measuring, fourfold staking, having the cord, stretching the cord in the sky on the earth, the four sides, the four corners, by the maker, modeler, mother, father of life, of humankind. So once again, in this creation story, we don't have a God who's just a he, or a goddess who's just a she. We have Mother, Father, God. Mother, Father of life, of humankind, giver of breath, giver of heart, bearer, upbringer in the light, the last of those born in the light, begotten, birthed, begotten in the light, warrior, knower of everything, whatever there is, sky, earth, lake, sea. This is the account. Here it is. Now it ripples. Now it still murmurs, ripples. It still sighs, hums, and it's empty. Here follow the first words, the first eloquence. There is not yet one person, not one animal, bird, fish, crab, tree, rock, hollow, canyon, meadow, forest. Only the sky alone is there. The face of the earth is not clear. Only the sea alone is pulled under all the sky. There's nothing whatever gathered here. It is at rest. Not a single thing stirs. It's held back, kept at rest. So once again, I find this very interesting. Often in creation stories, life arises from the sea. And Darwinism is another creation story. And where did Darwin posit that life came from? The sea. Whatever there is that might be is simply not there. Only the pooled water, only the calm sea, only it alone is pooled. Whatever it might be is simply not there. Only murmurs, ripples in the dark, in the night. Only the maker, modeler alone. Remember, the maker, modeler is mother, father. Sovereign plume serpent, the bearers, begetters are in the water, a glittering light. They are there, they are enclosed in quetzal feathers and blue-green, thus the name plumed serpent. They are great knowers, great thinkers in their very being. And of course there's the sky. There's also the heart of the sky. This is the name of the God that is spoken. And then came his word. He came to the sovereign plumed serpent here in the blackness. He spoke, and they talked. Then they thought, then they worried. They agreed with each other. They joined their words, their thoughts. Then it was clear. They reached accord in the light, and then humanity was clear when they conceived the growth, the generation of trees, bushes, and the growth of life, humankind in the blackness, in the early dawn, all because of the heart of sky named Hurricane. Thunderbolt Hurricane comes first. The second is newborn thunderbolt. The third is sudden thunderbolt. So there were three of them as heart of sky who came to the sovereign serpent when the dawn of life was conceived. I want you to write down these words and remember them from the Popol Vuh. The father mothers, they came together. They joined their words and their thoughts. They reached accord. Accord is a fancy name for agreement. So thoughts, words, agreement. And they reached this agreement in the light. And then humanity was clear. Perhaps in this story, and I'm just suggesting this, that this story suggests that humans need to carry on light, need to be enlightened, need to act with ethics. Thank you.